woke up, looked at my alarm clock, and I only had 10 minutes before I had to get to school. So I got up, got dressed, raced out to my car. Now, I got only about 5 miles out of town when I got a flat tire. But no problem, right? I could just change my tire, maybe be a little late to school. But it turns out I don't have a spare tire. But things started to turn around, or so I thought. A family friend was driving by on her way to work, and she offered to give me a ride. But the problem is, she's around my grandma's age and only has one speed: slow. So as much as I enjoyed the ride, all the time I was sitting there just saying, please go faster, please go faster, please go faster. But I finally got to school, and I rushed across the school to get to my first class. I got about 2 steps from my first class, and the bell rang. So I sneakily snuck in. The professor's head was turned around, so he didn't see me. I sat down, but then I heard my name being called. I had gotten a tardy, and as a result of that, I had gotten too many tardies, so I got a detention. Now, I had 2 choices. 1, I could have a total mental breakdown right there and then. Or 2, I could be resilient. What is resiliency? According to Webster's dictionary, the definition of resilience is the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties. One of the most prominent places we see resilience working is in college. It can be an exciting time for some, and it can also be a scary time for some. College is, it seems, a time synonymous with independence. However, it seems where the lack of resilience is now making its greatest mark. It's where the intellectual and developmental tracks converge as the emotional training wheels come off. By all accounts, psychological distress is rampant across campus colleges. It takes a variety of forms, including anxiety, depression, binge drinking, substance abuse, and other forms of disconnection. I myself suffer from anxiety, and I know some of the personal struggles college life can bring. This is interfering with the core mission of a successful college experience. The severity of student mental health problems has been rising since 1988. According to an annual survey of counseling center directors at Kansas State University, through 1996, most of the problems raised by students were relationships issues. But in 1996, anxiety overtook the relationship concerns and has remained the major problem. Another major problem with a lack of resilience in America is technology. Now, don't get me wrong, technology is one of the most successful advancements in the 21st century, and it does so many great things. It connects the world, creates new markets, creates jobs, and helps save lives. But students have become too dependent on it to solve even the simplest problems in their daily lives. A Huffington Post article that featured a survey conducted by Presta at a random high school said, out of 500 students, 73% said they could not finish an assignment without turning to the internet for at least one answer. And 38% of students said they could not go 10 minutes without checking their phone. This is the kind of dependency that is driving our nation from a strong, resilient nation to a nation of people who cannot make a decision without looking towards the internet for some type of guidance. A more historical story of resilience occurred when a group of Chilean mine workers had been engulfed and trapped in a 100-year-old mine in San Jose in the Chile's Atacama Desert. The mine collapsed on August 5, 2010, trapping 33 miners, more than 2,300 feet below ground. The miners were battling starvation and trying to cling to faith, hope, and anything else to keep them alive. Rescuers drilled more than a dozen holes trying to find the men buried in the mine. And after days of no signs of life, the Chilean president began to make plans for a giant cross to memorialize the miners. But on August 22, 2010, the world learned the men were alive after a drilling tool emerged from the deep with a note attached to it. The note said all 33 men were alive. All of the miners were eventually rescued, but 5 years later, many of the miners struggle with psychological scars and financial burdens. Today, many of the miners have trouble making ends meet, some living off government pension, which pays about $500 per month. That's roughly half of what they made while working at the San Jose mine. The lack of evidence gathered in 2013 resulted in no lawsuit against the mining company. This resilience the men possessed has what kept them going all this time. The ability to push through such a traumatic experience is an inspiration to us all. Life has presented different challenges for each of the 33 miners. The event that unites them is a reminder of what they can achieve with will, faith, and resilience. According to the American Psychology Association, people generally adapt well over time to life-changing situations and stressful conditions. What enables them to do so? It involves resilience. an ongoing process that requires time and effort. There are a few steps you can take to become more resilient. 1. Avoid seeing crisis as an insurmountable problems. You can't change the fact that highly stressful events happen, but you can change how you interpret and respond to these events. Try looking beyond the present to future circumstances, maybe a little bit better. 2. Accept that change is a part of living. Certain goals may no longer be attainable as a result of adverse situations. Accepting circumstances that cannot be changed can help you focus on circumstances you can alter. 3. Nurture a positive view of yourself. Developing confidence in your ability to solve problems and trusting your instincts help build resilience. 4. Take decisive actions. Act on adverse situations as much as you can. Take decisive actions rather than detaching completely from the problems and stresses, wishing they would just go away. 5. Keep things in perspective and maintain a hopeful outlook. Keep a long-term perspective when in a stressful or painful situation. Avoid blowing the event out of proportion. An optimistic outlook enables you to expect that good things will happen in your life. Try visualizing what you want rather than worrying about what you fear. With these steps, you can develop a more resilient attitude and lifestyle. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled, and that has made all the difference. This poem was written by a man named Robert Frost. To me, this poem is the epitome of what it means to be resilient. If a person becomes to know how to be resilient, their world will be open to a new freedom. According to Robert Brooks, an author of the article, The Power to Change Your Life, 10 Keys to Resilient Living, it is believed that if a person teaches themselves to have a resilient mindset, then that person will be more confident to take risks, which could lead to a more fulfilling life. Now I know that sometimes we need others, and it is okay to ask for help, but don't make that an excuse to bring others in to make decisions for you. It is important to not only own your choices, but also your mistakes as well. That can be scary for some people, and I know that nobody wants to make a mistake, but how else are you going to learn more about yourself? Now, I can feel guilty of sometimes of not being as resilient as I want to be. It seems for me it was always the smaller decisions that I consulted with my parents for guidance. But since I've started college, I've slowly become less and less dependent on my parents to make decisions. It is truly one of the best feelings in the world because now I actually feel like more an adult that can take care of myself. Resilience, there isn't a lack of it. There's a lack of action upon it. It is inside each and every one of us, just waiting for us to stand on our own and become resilient, not just in our words, but in our actions. I encourage all of you to start choosing to be more resilient, even if it's starting out by small decisions, or if there's a problem, don't avoid it, but rather confront it head on. Resilience is an important part of a person's life. All of us at one point in our lives have had to be resilient. Imagine, though, a world where resilience was practiced more every day. Think about how many people would not only be confident in their decisions, but rather in themselves. So, I encourage all of you to take on this challenge, and it will truly change your life forever. As a quote by Lori Schaefer once said, "When I peeled back the layers, I found a beautiful resilience inside. This is how I know I'll always thrive." Thank you.